Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Zulhilmi Zainal. So on this video, I will present my final year project PSM1, which is the title for my project is the observation on emission of biodiesel and ammonia mixture carbon neutral fuel combustion on the diesel engine. This project was supervised by Professor Madya TS Dr. Amir bin Khalid and TS Dr. Muhammad Nurizam bin Muhammad Jaad as a co-supervisor. So this is the content of the presentation where I will start the presentation with the research background. Okay, so for the research background, due to the current situation we are facing out with the decreasing in the petroleum sources, increasing in the fuel price, and increasing in the exhaust emission was lead to the further research on the finding and another alternative fuel where it can fix the situation. In 2021, ammonia has already become a hot topic for the users of the ammonia as a fuel in the internal combustion engine due to its clean fuel and carbon-free as its nature. Ammonia has a high potential to reduce the CO2 emission. Besides, it also can be considered to be a replacement to the current diesel and gasoline in future. Ammonia also can promise the cost-effective and economically feasible application due to its production, storage, transportation, and distribution are much more easier and less complicated compared to other fuel. As you can see in the slide, ammonia can be produced from many sources such as wind, solar, geothermal, biomass, nuclear, and electricity. The process of the ammonia basically separated into two sections where the hydrogen and nitrogen ion being formed and will through the synthesis process to form the ammonia. Now look at the figure where wind and the solar as a sources produce the ammonia by using electrolysis method. It shows that the water react at the anode to produce the hydrogen ion, which is migrate to the cathode where they will react with the nitrogen to form the ammonia. After the ammonia has produced, it will be stored before it's been distributed. Even though the ammonia has a lot of advantages such as the clean fuel, cost effective and carbon and free carbon, it still gives a negative impact for the use of the ammonia in the internal combustion engine such as high ignition temperature, low flame velocity and the slow chemical kinetic. The next content of my presentation is the problem statement and its objective. So as can be seen in the slide, the figures show that CO2 emission in Malaysia recorded by World Bank in 2016. From 2010 to 2016, Malaysia has recorded with an increasing in CO2 emission around 25 kilotons in the 6th year. According to the report released by the Malaysian Department of Environment in 2010, Malaysian CO2 emission was highly produced by the motor vehicle for the transportation activities at 97.1% in 2008. However, this number are continue rising until today where it lead to the increasing in the exhaust emission. This is a very serious problem because the emission will create the pollution where it could harm the human body. Besides, it also can cause the depletion of the ozone, affect the animal, polluted the environmental, and damage the ecosystem and increase the global warming. So basically, to prevent this problem continue rising, the study will conducted to investigate the alternative solution in order to reduce the emission caused by the fuel usage. The objective of the study is to study the non-organic biodiesel and ammonia mixture on the diesel engine, to develop the carbon neutral fuel combustion based on a non-organic biodiesel and ammonia mixture, and last to analyze the emission of non-organic biodiesel and ammonia mixture on the diesel engine. The next content is the scope of the study. So for this study, fuel test using the diesel engine by using the automotive four-stroke diesel engine test system, while the fuel will be tested, which is the non-organic biodiesel and ammonia mixture. The biodiesel come from two sources, which is the plastic pyrolysis oil (PPO) and tire pyrolysis oil (TPO), which is will be blended at 20 and 25%. Next, the percentage of ammonia used, which is 2, 4, and 6%, and will be tested at the different engine speed, which is 1200, 1400, 1600, 1800, and 2000 rpm. For the data acquisition and the measurement, then the dynamometer was used to analyze the engine performance, while the emission analyzer was used to analyze the exhaust emission. Next is literature review. This literature review was highlight the uses of the PPO, TPO, and ammonia in the diesel engine. In 2021, the diesel Karanja biodiesel 30, TPO 30, and blended fuel with the Karanja biodiesel and TPO at 10 and 20% for each fuel was used to test in the experiment, where from the experiment it showed that the brake specific fuel consumption was increased. For the emission characteristic, carbon monoxide and hydrocarbon show was increasing, and the nitrate oxide was decreased. In 2022, diesel and plastic pyrolysis oil blended was used to conduct the experiment, which the experiment show from the experiment it showed that the brake power was decreased. The usage of the pure TPO will cause the brake specific fuel consumption increase, and carbon dioxide CO2 emission decrease, and the nitrate oxide will slightly decrease with the TPO 20%. So in 2022, the diesel and the diesel with the ammonia solution and H3OH with the 25% used to conduct the experiment, where from the experiment show that the nitrate oxide was decreased, the carbon monoxide was increased with the ammonia solution, the nitrate oxide decreased with the increasing of the ammonia percentage, and the hydrocarbon and carbon monoxide was increased with the increasing of ammonia percentage. So, from this literature review, I can conclude that the uses of the PPO plastic pyrolysis oil will improve in the engine performance, while it will produce a high exhaust emission, while the TPO uses tire pyrolysis oil will lower the engine performance, but it will improve the emission where it's produce lower exhaust emission, while the using ammonia slightly show that possibility to decrease the CO2 emission. The next content of this presentation is the methodology. In this section, the flow chart used to show the flow of this study, where start with the brainstorming, where the further discussion was held in order to strengthen the research background, to identify the problem, objective, and the scope for the study. The next step is to determine the material and equipment used. After that, the experiment will be run by using the engine test system, dynamometer, and emission analyzer used to analyze the engine performance and emission. If the result was expected, the data will be analyzed and discussion will be proceed. If not, the experiment will be start again. So, experimental setup. So this show the specification of the engine tested use and the dynamometer, where the engine tested use by using the Tata 275 IDI diesel with the compression ignition, with the conversion ratio at 21 to 1 with 2 cylinder at 4 stroke. The maximum power output at 16 horsepower and maximum torque was at 38. And then for the dynamometer used is the eddy current, which is the model TMEC20 with the water cooling system. The string gauge used as a load measurement method, while the maximum power is at 15 bhp. The cooling water flow rate is at 14 to 15 liter per minute, and minimum water pressure is 1.6 bar. Next is expected outcome. For the expected outcome, for the study, expected to be able to determine the suitable percentage of the ammonia to use in the diesel engine without bringing any harm. Next, to having an improvement on the engine performance, which is the brake thermal efficiency (BTE) expected to increase, while the brake specific fuel consumption expected to decrease. So for this emission characteristic, since ammonia used as the additional fuel, the emission produced from this study will be improved with highlight to the CO2 emission expected to decrease, while the nitrate oxide will slightly increase. So conclusion, ammonia used as the additional fuel to lower the carbon emission and is known as a carbon-free fuel. The study is aiming to observe the emission on the diesel engine with the non-organic biodiesel and ammonia mixture at various of percentage at different engine speed. The experiment will be done to obtain the result of an improvement on the emission level and the engine performance. So for the overall project plan, so basically the video presentation was recorded at week 14 and will be submitted in week 15, and the last was with the Q&A session with the panel on week 16 on 30 June. So thank you.